Soon after VY1's release, Yamaha and B-Plats announced they were developing another Vocaloid in the Vocaloid Yamaha series named VY2. Initially slated for a late 2010 release, VY2, codenamed Yuma, meaning brave horse, was delayed to continue tweaking the software. It was released April 25, 2011, with high expectations from its developers, promising Vocaloid users the highest quality Japanese male Vocaloid yet. Or at least, the highest quality male Vocaloid. Like VY1, VY2 has no official character traits, identity, or gender, but since VY1's voice was generally taken to be feminine, they went with the more masculine voice with VY2. VY2's voice provider is not known, but he was the youngest male singer to provide a voice to a Vocaloid at the time. VY2 does deliver on its promise of a high-quality, realistic voice, but like VY1, VY2 was designed to be used by professionals and for Yamaha's own products, so it has not seen too much use among the fandom in general. VY2 was also the last Vocaloid to be created for the Vocaloid 2 engine. When I wrote the credits roll for the previous episode, I forgot to mention this particular Vocaloid because I wasn't sure where she fit in the timeline. That's because she's quite unique among the Vocaloids in more ways than one. Enter Akikoloid-chan, who was released in... Actually, she was never released at all. Grab your graham crackers, kids, it's story time. In the 1930s, a grocery store named Lawson's Milk Company was established in Ohio. By the 1970s, Lawson's was a large chain store franchise in Ohio after being bought out by several corporations and renamed multiple times. In 1974, the first Lawson's opened in Japan, and today it is the second largest convenience store chain in Japan, second only to 7-Eleven. For some reason, this grocery store has a presence on Nico Nico, and the folks at Lawson Japan wanted their own Vocaloid to act as a host for their Nico Nico page. The mascot character for Lawson Japan is Akiko-chan, so they basically turned her into a Vocaloid and produced Akikoloid-chan, making her one of the very few private Vocaloids, a completed, published Vocaloid who was never sold commercially. Her voice bank can only be used with express permission and licensing by Lawson Japan, so finding amateur songs made with her is impossible. Because she can only be used by professionals, her songs are usually high quality, and she has met with approval in the Japanese and Western fandoms, but it is unlikely her voice bank will ever be sold. I mention her in this list because I find the concept of a private, full-scale Vocaloid to be very interesting, and Akikoloid-chan's first appearance was in September 6, 2011, making her the very first published Vocaloid to use the new Vocaloid 3 engine. It took almost 5 years, but October 21st, 2011 saw the beginning of the third generation of Vocaloids, with 2 new Vocaloids and several new voice banks being released alongside the new Vocaloid 3 engine. The first of these is published by Yamaha itself, Miu, based on the vocals of singer Sakamoto Miu, could be purchased as a bundle with the Vocaloid 3 software, or her voice bank could be purchased separately. She is designed to be used by professionals, and as such is difficult to use if you're inexperienced, but she gives good results. Her voice was well received in Japan, but she is not commonly used. Though Mew was the first original Vocaloid created for Vocaloid 3, SeeU can be considered the first true Vocaloid of the new generation, as she gives the Vocaloid franchise another first and raises the bar of those to come. Released October 21, 2011, she was not the first bilingual Vocaloid. That honor goes to Luca, as I have stated previously. But SeeU was the first Vocaloid to have a voice bank available in a language that was neither Japanese nor English. SeeU was the first ever Korean-Japanese Vocaloid, developed by Yamaha and SBS AtH. She is voiced by Kim Da-hee of the K-pop group Glam. With her character design as a young girl and an optimum genre of pop music, it's easy to see that SeeU was developed for the Vocaloid fandom rather than for the professional market. But that doesn't mean SeeU is a slouch. In fact, she is quite capable and has a very pleasant voice. Unfortunately, SBS AtH tried to make promises with SeeU that they couldn't keep. Before SeeU's release, SBS AtH was unofficially calling SeeU the first trilingual Vocaloid, saying that her Korean voice bank was so broad that it would allow her to sing in English. While it is true that the Korean language is much more detailed than Japanese in terms of syllables available, as someone with a Korean mother, I can attest that Korean sounds alone are not anywhere near close enough to qualify as a substitute for English. SBS AtH claimed that SeeU had additional sounds added to her voice bank that were not part of Korean so that she would be better able to sing English, but it is still far-fetched to call her trilingual. Additionally, while SeeU is great at singing in Korean, she has a bit of a Korean accent when singing in Japanese, according to Japanese users and listeners, so she sounds slightly off to them. What is probably more difficult for the Japanese to adjust to, however, is that SeeU's software will not accept Japanese language sound entries. All phonemes, that is, the code used to tell the software which sound to make, must be written in Romanized Korean, which is not as standard or straightforward as Romanized Japanese. Because most Vocaloid users are Japanese, this creates a large language barrier that you would not think would exist in a bilingual Vocaloid designed for countries that are culturally bordered. This creates a problem for non-Japanese users as well. Westerners wanting to use SeeU must have a firm grasp of Korean phonetics in order to know how to use her. I know that many of the people watching this will only be interested in the technicals and the technology, but SeeU sparked a large controversy that I feel needs to be resolved. To put it bluntly, because SeeU is Korean, many Japanese people dislike her.
I'm a really big fan of yours.
Really? I thank you, and yes, I have heard of you.
You have heard of me? Well, what do you think of my music so far?
You suck.
What? What?
Your outfit is just hideous. I mean, really, orange, out of all the colors to pick, you picked orange. And who wears cat ears anymore? It's overdone, way too overdone. And we already have a Vocaloid that has cat ears. It's just, and your singing needs a lot of work. I'm hungry.
It is a simple matter of racism, and I feel that is a huge shame, especially when you consider she is the result of a partnership between a Japanese company and a Korean one. She is an ambassador, an adorable, singing, dancing ambassador. That prejudice contributed a lot to SeeU's lack of sales, but there is no doubt that the difficulty in using her software contributed just as much. She did not sell as well as expected, but SeeU has dedicated fans from around the world, and I hope that someday she'll be given the attention she deserves. Whether or not you purchased Miu to go with the new Vocaloid 3 software, you automatically received an updated version of the VY1 voice bank, VY1 V3. This version of VY1 was much the same as the original, but with tweaks here and there that led to a smoother output. It also added some additional sounds that were not a part of the original, but it's so similar that there's not much else to say. Despite the small revision, this does mark the first time a Vocaloid's voice bank has been directly updated to a new engine version. Rin and Len were the first to receive a major patch, but it did not directly alter their original voice banks, nor did it greatly update their engine. I'm not going to show any example videos for VY1 V3 because it's so similar to the original version.